Hello, good afternoon, welcome and thank you for joining this session for Careers Now. Careers Now is Food and Beverage Ontario's workforce development initiative, and we're dedicated to inspiring the next generation to explore careers in the food and beverage processing sector. I'm joined today by Dane, Jordana and Chloe, each from different areas in the food industry. Isn't it typical that as soon as we start, my dog starts barking? I'm so sorry. Like literally, he's been quiet, so please ignore Ernie. Um, so yes, thank you for joining us today. I think it's a really this session's been. I've been looking forward to doing this one because I've been on a lot of secondary school engagements recently, and I think culinary comes up a lot. A lot of young people that think of food think of the restaurant and culinary side when they think of careers in food. And they are at all aware of the different career paths that are available in the industry. So thank you for joining us today, and I look forward to hearing about your own career path and what you've been doing in the sector. So we're going to start with Jordana. I'm going to step and close my door. But Jordana, if you wouldn't mind just sharing your education, your career path, and just kind of to present day what you're doing with Griffiths Foods.
Sure, yeah. Can everyone hear me? Can you guys hear me there? Okay, perfect. Can't see everybody, but I can see you guys. Awesome. Thank you for having me. This is a really cool opportunity to talk, as Nicole said, about what we do in the industry and how it's very different than what you would typically think of when you were to graduate culinary school. I went to university after university, was not sure what I wanted to do with my life, like most university grads. Moved home and went to George Brown College for culinary management. And I graduated in 2001, which makes me very old, but and feels like a lifetime ago. Um, and after graduating, really didn't know what I wanted to do with culinary. Just knew I loved to cook and loved food and had the real passion for the industry. But I definitely knew I didn't want to do restaurant work. I went to catering. So I did do catering for a few years, both large scale and small scale, both um, business like business dining, B2B, and events as well, and loved the work, but it's was a little taxing um, on my schedule just because really late nights or really super early mornings, and I was a little bit older than a lot of the other people that were starting out, so kind of felt like maybe this isn't for me long term, but definitely gained a lot of knowledge while I was doing catering. After that, I kind of decided that I wanted to impart a little bit more knowledge out into the world. So I started to work for a cooking school, and it was a downtown cooking school, and it was for people home cooks, people who wanted to learn basic skills or hone certain skills, learn about different. Whether it be different cuisines or knife skills, basic skills, that kind of idea. Um, and the secondary element of the cooking school was that they were a cookware manufacturer out of US. So that was my first introduction to a little bit of sales, and was able to kind of marry the idea of food and knowledge with sales, and just decided that that was kind of a little bit more of the area that I wanted to go in. So from there, I went to Craft Foods, which is in Toronto, and I was covering a maternity leave. My colleague was going on maternity leave for a year, and I came in and expanded her role a little bit, took on some of her clients. And what that really means as a corporate chef for a food manufacturer is that you take products that exist already. So if you're thinking craft, perhaps you're thinking craft salad dressing, or you're thinking craft cheese. And what you are doing is you are showcasing those products in ways to customers. I worked on the food service side. So in this case, my customers would have been um, mid-scale restaurants, quick serve restaurants like fast food, hospitals, anywhere that you think of food away from home would be considered food service. So when you hear that term, that can kind of give you an idea. And I didn't really know what food service was until I started at Kraft, to be honest. So after working there, after my maternity leave contract was up, I moved on to Nestle in a very similar role, a great global company. And then I decided to wanted to expand my skill set. You'll see that that's kind of my path, is kind of what's next, always what's next. So I went to work for a large food distributor. So in Canada, we have basically two very large food distributors as well as some smaller ones. And what a food distributor does is they take the food from the manufacturer and they facilitate sales and they get it to the end user, in this case, the restaurant or the hotel or the hospital. And so I worked for a broadband large uh, distributor for a few years, and then went on to work for a food broker. And a food broker is basically a company. Companies use food brokers if they don't have a large enough business to hire their own sales and marketing. So a food broker will take on clients. In this case, we had 40 clients coast to coast, and we would represent their products. So we would do things like training, which goes back to that teaching element. We would do recipe creation, we would do menu engineering, menu creation, that kind of stuff. So, and then from there, I came to Griffith, and I've been at Griffith now for only 7 months, but this was a real pivot in my career. Griffith is a ingredient company, so not a company that you're going to see our name splashed all over the place like a Kraft or a Nestle. It is products that might go into a Kraft or a Nestle product. We work on sauces, we work on seasonings, we work on coating systems, so like breadings and batters, that kind of thing. And the reason that this role is different is because it has a little bit of a research and development element to it. Before this, I was using finished products like a finished dressing, and now I can go to the customers, our clients, and say, hey, let's develop something that's more custom to your business. So it would be developed um, with their needs in mind. I don't have a science background, so I am really just culinary and I'm learning science. So the nice thing about Griffith is they're very much about development, and they kind of took me on knowing I didn't have the science background, but I'm learning on the job, and I'm also taking some courses because I do believe that that education doesn't end when you graduate one program. And that's where I am now.
That's an awesome story. And thank you for explaining all the elements, because I think you're right. Most people don't understand much once you learn once you're in. And as I'm a recruiter, I'm still learning all the time, depending on the role I'm sporting, learning about that particular career path. So it's awesome that you would explain. And I agree with Griffiths Foods. It's not a name that you see on the shelf. So, it's not familiar. And I always say that to students and grads, like you really need to dive a little bit deeper and educate yourself of the different places that are hiring great employers. You just may never have heard of them. And I've actually had the opportunity to visit your test kitchen a few years ago now.
Oh, excellent.
But it's, again, people wouldn't know that those jobs are available. Those career paths are available where you're in this impressive test kitchen, entertaining customers and playing with food.
Exactly.
It's just, and more sociable hours, I would say.
Definitely. A lot easier to have a family when you're not working, crazy hours, and a little bit more, stable 9 to 5, lots of opportunity for advancement, lots of opportunity to put money away and have, RRSPs and those kind of things. So yeah, it's not for everybody who's interested in food, because there is a lot of the administrative side. So there is a lot of, I do spend days where I'm wearing my whites, but I'm actually not seeing food all day, a lot of meetings, a lot of behind the scenes work. But then it's a nice marriage, because then I have days where I can be super creative, get really messy, and dive right into the food element and just try things and see what you end up with, which is, I think, one of the things we all really love about culinary.
Mm-hmm. So why you get into it, right? It's that love of food.
You got it, for sure.
I have a bunch more questions, but I'm going to move to Dane now, which, again, the original Cakerie, most people have not heard of that organization. So if you wouldn't mind kind of walking us through your story and
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, so my story is similar to Jordana's, actually. I went to university and very quickly realized that, my passion for food was something that I wanted to make a career out of. So I was lucky enough to get a apprenticeship at with Fairmont Hotels. So I worked at the Fairmont Royal York for about 4 years. And as part of that, they actually send you to the apprenticeship program at George Brown for, it's a condensed version of the culinary management program. So it's essentially 2 4-month semesters where you're doing everything at a bit of a quicker pace. So they're assuming that you have some sort of base level of skills coming into the program. So I worked for Fairmont for 4 years. And the great thing about the apprenticeship program was that really they moved you around from sector to sector within the hotel every few months. So you really got to see, a huge scope of what the industry has to offer. Hotel, especially Fairmont hotels, they cover everything from very fine dining to banquets for 4,000 people to pastry to they have pubs in them as well often, and it really gave me a really good understanding and a very broad scope of learning in conjunction with the education portion at George Brown. From there, I didn't really know what I wanted to do within the industry yet. I was still quite young and wanted to sort of see what fine dining had to offer. So I worked at a restaurant called the Wine Bar, or Jamie Kennedy Wine Bar, in downtown Toronto, and did more of the fine dining, 10 to 15 items on the menu, 100 to 200 covers every day, where we would write a menu every day. We would work with local farmers and see things that would come in. And it was at that stage of my career, it really allowed me to exercise the very creative side of my brain, which I loved. But at the same time, I quickly learned that I didn't want to work sort of nights and weekends and holidays for the rest of my life. So I decided at that point that I wanted to try and find a career that allowed me to have the creative side, but gave me a bit more flexibility and work-life balance. From that point, I started working with a chain in Ontario called Pickle Barrel, which I'm sure everyone remembers from sort of their childhood. But it was my first real foray into doing menu development. There was 13 locations across the chain, and I was doing sort of culinary operations, helping to open new locations, working with all the various kitchen managers and doing some creative development from a sort of culinary standpoint. From there, I had a great opportunity to work with Cineplex Entertainment, which I know is not something that people always associate with food, being in a theater. But at the time, this was before any of the VIP theaters even existed. Even the sort of Outtakes brand, which is sort of where you would go to get chicken fingers and nachos and things like that in the theater, was in its infancy. So I was able to go in and really sort of create a brand. Everything from training guides to, we opened over 90 locations across Canada. So there was a lot of travel, but I had a lot of fun doing it and really put my stamp on the sort of VIP brand as well. So figuring out how to execute, 100 meals in a 15-minute window within an auditorium, it presents different challenges. It wasn't so much from a creative standpoint, food-wise, but operationally trying to figure out how to tackle that many guests in that speed of time, thinking about things like how to eat at your seat. It creates different sort of challenges in there as well. I then did some other work with a chain called Shoeless Joe's. They were looking to expand out of province, out of Ontario, and really they were looking to bring someone in to drive operational efficiencies and fine tune their menu, bring costs down a little bit, and help them expand. So I did a short stint from that. And then similar to Jordana, I spent some time at Kraft Heinz post-merger. So once they became one company, I was the corporate chef for food service for Canada. And again, like Jordana mentioned, it was a lot of either custom development for the likes of, Tim Hortons, McDonald's, the sort of the big players, or it was working with some of the full service restaurants to come up with new and unique menu items for their guests that really showcased Kraft Heinz products, whether they were new and custom for them or things that were already in the marketplace. And then that sort of leads me to where I am now. Right now I'm the Senior Director of Culinary Research and Development at the original Cakerie, or Dessert Holdings, which it's now owned. So we have 8 locations, 8 plants, manufacturing facilities across North America. We're the largest premium dessert manufacturer within North America as well. And here I manage a team of pastry chefs. I also manage all the initial sourcing of new unique raw materials and our sort of sample process here. So my day-to-day really involves working with my team to help them create the best new custom products for the likes of, everyone. The majority of our business is in the US, but everyone from, Starbucks to Kroger to Costco to Sam's Club to sort of all the big US retailers and food service customers. So there's a lot of cake tasting, which sounds quite glamorous. I can promise you it's not always glamorous. But at Kraft Heinz, there was a lot of mayonnaise tastings at 7 o'clock in the morning as well. So I'll take chocolate cake over mayonnaise any day of the week.
To be working with cakes all day. I mean, you're not selling it that it's a tough gig. It always fascinates me as well, people's stories. You both have cross paths, a little bit, but everyone has a different story. And this is what I share with students as well. There's not one size fits all, and your career can often take you on the path. And I guess maybe the universe has your back and knows where you're going to end up. And one step leads to the next, and it's the people that you meet that might get you that next opportunity for sure. And we can dive a little bit more into that.
I think as well, just from my perspective, I think a lot of it, I think at the beginning, there's an assumption that you know what the end goal is going to be and you know where you're going to end up. I think there's a lot of pressure to, well, where do you want this to take you? And I think that I haven't always known where I've wanted to take me even the step before getting there. I think, this is one of those industries that, when I first started, I didn't know that these types of jobs existed really. I thought it was, you work at a hotel, you work at a restaurant. That was sort of it. And typically in a lot of these roles, there's food science background, but I know that especially like Jordana and myself, I know we haven't gone down those typical paths, but there's a lot of flexibility, and I think there's a lot of value put around sort of the culinary education portion of it, and what that brings to the table. It's a unique skill set that may not have sort of the technical knowledge, but it definitely brings a lot to an organization.
Mm. And I would love to dive more into the team aspect, because I think you're right. It takes a team. Everyone has a different skill set, and I'll come back to that. We have Chloe joining us, a little bit more sort of early in your career, but would love to hear your story as well, and where you currently are. I know Give and Go pretty well. Oh,
yeah. I just thank you so much for inviting me for that meeting. It's been my honor to can tell people about my story and at least like motivate someone who in the same situation as me know that they have a chance to do it. So I think my story is a little bit different than to other people talked before, because I'm international student when I just first came to Canada. So in Vietnam, we don't have any term, like no one know or understanding what is food science is. No one knows what about like quality controls or what is that. People in their mind, even my parents right now, they still think that I study to become a chef. But I'm like, not really, but still, I just keep explaining for them. So like I'm like, I came to Canada in 2017. At that time, I'm like, okay, I got a letter acceptance from Western University for the food technology program, and then at that time my English is so bad. Like I cannot like the only thing I think I cannot understand what people are talking about. I just maybe can say that, but I cannot catch it or can join the conversation. So I have to learn English from Western. And after learning English there, I feel like, do I really want that? Because studying 4 years and spend the money as this international students in something I'm not sure that my futures can end up with happy ending or no. So I'm like, okay, let's step back. I move all the programs and started at college. So I found Niagara College. So my program at Niagara is like culinary innovation and food science technology. And I think that is one of the best decision I made in my life. Even it took years to prove for my parents to understand that I make a right choice. Like, because in their mind, university and college is different. It's different level. So I went to Niagara. We study everything about the R&D or the lab, or like we even know how to. We even have to learn how to know cooking. And in there, it's not like I follow the recipe. It's like, why I adding sugar in there? Why I adding salt in there? I have to understand each step I did in there, because I love cooking so much. I love baking. I spend all my time, even when I'm in secondary school, before, like I bake like basically every week. I love that. Even it's fail, but I learn a lot from that. I enjoy it. So that's why I know, okay, that's what I want to do. That's why I want to spend time for that. I want every day going to work, I'd be happy. So I want to focus on that. So yeah, so I finished in Niagara. And then during the time at Niagara, I'm lucky to have a chance to work at the research center at Niagara too. So they have a lot of small or medium food company, which they doesn't have the R&D team. They go to Niagara, and we're gonna have them to fix the problem. Like we have them for the QA thing, we have them for the HACCP, or we have them to create the formula or fixing the process to maximize it. And then I have a chance to work there even I'm still studying. And then when doing a co-op at Niagara, I have a chance to work in a Kush company, which they do the plant-based cheese and butter. So it's a small company, but I really enjoy the time in there to work it there, because in my mind, I think that even a small or medium or big company, I still learn a lot from there. From a small company, I can learn about a lot of things, because it's a small company, it's less people, and you have to dig in many things. So I take that opportunity and learn everything from that. Even at that time, I just being a staff there, making a sample with them, but I use whatever knowledge I have to maximize the process to make it faster. Having them for the HACCP or the safety thing. And then after 3 months, I graduated in 2021, and I got right away to Give and Go. I'm lucky too, I think, because I have a really good connection with my professor during the time when we study. And I think I share what I'm looking for them. I share my story to them, so they understand what I'm looking for. I think they understand me in the persons, like how can I work, something like that. Even I don't have a lot of like experiment or a chance to work in many restaurant or place like to other people, but I think they know that I can work as a team. I can ask questions if I have struggle, something like that. So I got referred from my professor to Give and Go, and I still work there till now. It's 2 years plus already, and I still love it. To be honest, when we study at Niagara College, I got learned to study in the lab or study about the HACCP, or turn to be a QA, QC, like quality control, or work for the government, which my professor is really joking that you're going to earn a lot from that, because it's just like you like a lawyer in the food, right? But for me, I feel like I love being in R&D team. I love spend time in the kitchen. I love touching in that. I love like every day I go to work, I do a creative thing. It's gonna be so many problems happen during the time when you do that. But for me, it's like opportunities, like the challenge for me. If I can fix it, I'm gonna be so proud of myself. It's same like someone who love math and they can solve the lesson. It's same as me, like I love that dish. I want to make that. If I can solve it, I'm happy and be proud of myself. So I think it's really important, as we all say here, that you need to find what you love, you need to follow your passions, and you have to believe that you can do it.
I mean, by the way, your English is amazing. I speak one language, so you know. And I have to say, I know your professor, the one you're alluding to, Amy at Niagara. I know her well. I mean, what a rock star, and she advocates for her students. So I hear what you're saying. If you show that you have a strong work ethic, and you've communicated with her what you're interested in, she will move mountains to find you a home. So
they're very supportive.
Yeah. And it sounds like you have with Give and Go, which is awesome. I guess the question I have, can you explain, and I'd love to go around everybody, can you explain what you do in a day? I know, Jordana, you touched on it a little bit, but this is probably one of the main questions I'm asked. Like, I see a job description, I see a job title, but what do they actually do? Like, when they arrive at the office in the morning, or virtually if you're working, like, what do you do when you arrive? What does your day look like? And who do you work with? Who from other departments do you work with? Chloe, maybe as you're unmuted, you want to go first, and then we'll go to
okay. Yeah. So for Give and Go, we also, the bakeries like company too. We under the Mondelez family, international family. For me right now, I'm is the product developer coordinator. So we have the whole big department of R&D, like PD, food product developer, and then we divide as the different categories. So I'm under the cookie category. So we do everything related to like so every day going to work, it's gonna be a lot of things, like maybe same as the original Cakerie, we have to send the product to Costco, to Walmart, to Target, we have to send, like, if they have any order or any project they want us to like develop for in the future, like Valentine or as the new seasonal is coming up, we're gonna like dig in that. We're gonna see, okay, what they're looking for or the requirement, and then we apply with what we have there, what the facility can do, what the flavors, everything we can make, and then we align with the other team like marketing and sales. Then we start making the sample in the lab, showing up for people to test and give the comment and continue to do that. When we finalize having the flavor, the sample, when everyone agree, we're gonna bring it to the line. We're gonna try it in the trial. Like now, it's the funny part that we can make a really beautiful thing in the lab, but not actually we can do it right the first time in the line, because it's everything. We have to talk, we have to understand the equipment, you have to understand the people. Everything can change during the time when they're mixing, the different zone of the oven. We have to work all of that until we get to something in the lab the same as in the line. And that's the part, it's hard, but I love that. And I spend all the time in the trial and changing this, changing that, try to find the reason why it's come up like that. What we can do to like not spend a lot of money, but still can solve that. So, and then after this finals done, we're like, okay, we have to talk to marketing about the label. We have to talk to about the operation, like that we want them to run, or like the engineer, like this is the equipment we're looking for to get, or like I want you to fix this, fix that. It's really like not only that you have to understand the food, you also have to talk to people, because we all work as a team. And that's the main thing. I think like it's not only the food industry, in the other job you still have to work as a team to get to the sample, to get to the product, to get it to the market.
So I'm hearing communication skills are key.
Yeah.
Jordana, would you mind sharing your day-to-day?
Sure, yeah, definitely. I would say, Chloe, you really hit the nail on the head. I think you have to be open to working collaboratively with different teams. I think sometimes culinary people are very introverted. Not always, but I'm actually quite introverted in my private life, but quite extroverted in my professional life. And I think that you have to be open to working collaboratively, working in teams, and having your expertise, but being able to communicate that within other teams. So every day looks really different, which is actually part of the appeal for me. I not a huge routine type person. I like the fact that I'm always working on different projects, but a day could look like, coming in, checking my email, going into the kitchen, working on a project. Let's say we're working on a project for a protein processor. So that would be like a company like a Maple Leaf or Jane's. You see Jane's chicken fingers in the grocery store all the time. So we would be working on a product that we would then present to those manufacturers. And we use things like industry insights, global insights. We use research and development. We use, sometimes it's like, oh, here's an idea that I saw on TikTok that's kind of cool. Like, you kind of gather ideas from all different areas of your life, restaurants you've seen, things you've seen out in the marketplace if you're a grocery shopper. And then we would bring all those together, and we would work, culinary would work very closely with the R&D team, or the research and development team, and figure out what we can do, what's within our wheelhouse, and then what's within the wheelhouse of the customer that we're presenting it to. So you really do have to understand, like Chloe was saying, you really do have to understand the equipment piece, you have to understand the manufacturing piece, you have to understand raw ingredients and their availability, allergens, food safety, that all of those things kind of play a piece in your day-to-day decisions. So you would work on prototypes, and then you would try them with a panel. We have a sensory team, so sensory is another area that culinary could kind of look towards, and that is really being like, for lack of a better term, you're a professional taster, and you're pulling out all of the elements of the food you're tasting, and you're mapping it out, whether it's sweet or bitter or salty or sour, and you're really being able to describe it. So you're being able to take a product that someone else isn't eating, and you're able to kind of give enough language and enough descriptors so that they can almost taste it in their mind, if that makes sense. And that's really sensory. So we'll work really closely with sensory, and then we'll present to our customers. So that will take place either in our facility, our test kitchen, or we will potentially travel to them and present in their kitchen. If we're talking to like a restaurant, or a fast food restaurant, then we might be talking directly to their, like our corporate, to their corporate decision makers, showing them ideas. And again, it's all coming up with the ideas the same way. So it's doing lots of research and reading and seeing what's in the market and seeing what other restaurants are doing and getting ideas, and then kind of going, what can I do that's a little bit different than what's been done before, right? So that's pretty much what a day looks like. It could really be anything. Lots of playing in the kitchen, and also the administrative element of it.
I love that, the variety.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Dane, would you mind
Sure,
sharing?
yeah. So similar to Jordana and Chloe, I don't really have a typical day. I can sort of go through a few sort of key things that I would tackle in a week, just to give an idea of sort of scope of the job. So typically, my job starts quite early. A lot of our business is East Coast based here. A lot of our customers are East Coast based, so it is not a 9 to 5. Typically, we're in quite a bit earlier. I try to spend time with my team every day, tasting and reviewing the products that they're working on. So I have a team of pastry chefs that report into me, and each of them will be assigned a different customer project. They typically have 2 or 3 projects that they're working on at once. So we have sort of a daily touch point. The way it works from a project standpoint is it's either internally driven, so it's an idea that we think is a gap in the market, or there's something that we can work on, or it comes really from the customer side, where they're looking for, it could be as vague as a spring and summer cake. It could be a pumpkin spice cake that they're looking for specifically. So from there, I really work collaboratively with our marketing and sales team to figure out the scope of the project. So what exactly are they looking for? I spend a lot of time on the phone and meetings with customers, or face-to-face, depending, to really understand what are the sort of non-negotiables of the product that they needed to have, whether it's a certain shelf life, a certain flavor profile, a certain visual. And then I will relay that back and kick it off to someone on my team who has the capacity to take it on. And then we have a sort of a daily check-in where we're tasting products. Here we're big believers of, we don't send anything out to a customer from a sample perspective until we're 100% happy with it. Often that means we're doing 20, 30, 40 versions of something before a customer is seeing it. And we're tending to do that quite quickly. So what I'll do is I'll spend some time in the kitchen tasting either components of a cake. So I could be tasting, 5 different pumpkin mousses to figure out sort of what the texture and flavor is, and working with my chefs to help guide them down the path, knowing what the customer is looking for, and then with my other hat on, knowing from an operations standpoint what we can do successfully on the production floor. I spend a lot of time either on the production floor here, just looking at some of the products that we're making, looking for continuous improvement opportunities, things to, whether it's new equipment, new processes, new ways of doing things. How do we make things as easy as possible for our operations team to be able to execute consistently all the time? And then, so I spend a lot of time with sort of the operations folks, and then that gives me that operation mindset when we're developing and creating products. So instead of just thinking about what tastes great in the kitchen, I think Chloe touched on it as well, is how do you then take that delicious cake and make 40,000 cases or 60,000 cases of it consistently across the board. So I spend a lot of time with my team doing that. There's also unglamorous things, like I'm on a lot of sort of finance calls and things like that as well, trying to understand the sort of the full scope of the business. But I try to be very hands-on with my team. I'm the first one to admit I am an awful baker. That is not my background. I would be reading instructions off the back of a brownie box if I was making them at home, which is an embarrassing thing to admit. I'm a much better chef than I am a baker. But my role is really more around managing people and managing projects, and sort of a hybrid of pushing my team to be as creative as possible within our confines, and then figuring out how to sell and market that to the customers.
As you were speaking, you just said what I was going to say. So project management skills, that's something obviously that's very high up there for your role.
It absolutely is. I mean, we do have designated project managers here, but I think who really tackle sort of individual projects from start to finish. But they're thinking about things like packaging and supply chain and things that I don't have the skill set really to do on a daily basis. But it is, yeah, you're absolutely right. I think it's project management within the research and development capacity. So it's, a big part of my role and my part of what I handle here is all new ingredient sourcing too. So it's about understanding, what are the trends in the marketplace? What are some raw materials that could meet that? And then helping to bring those into the fold as well.
Mm. Chloe, you touched on, I hope I don't put you on the spot here, but you touched on issues and problems, things go wrong when you go to the trial. Can you talk about a particular project that you remember where you solved it or your team solved it? Something that was just, I don't know, because I've heard this, I don't have a culinary background at all, but, no one thought that it might be this, or it's the temperature in the room, or whatever the case might be. Can you think of something, a challenge that you solved?
Yes, so if I remember right, so like one times when we do, so as I say, it's my project's like doing cookie. So when we're doing cookies, normally when you do cookie at home, you're gonna do it with butter. You're gonna store the batch like in the fridge for a couple of hours or even overnight, and then you bake it, spread nicely. But in the industry, you don't have time to like put it in the fridge. You may have to cut out the cost because you cannot do all butter if you want to sell the trays with $4. And you have to think a lot of things about that too. And then normally it's just one line, sometimes one production line they can do for not only one product. So they may do like cookies or like macaron or something at the same one. And they have to do like the cleanings like properly for all the allergen and stuff. So one time when we do cookie, we run it when we run the trial and we do the productions, everything is so nice. But one time it's hitting on the days is in the summer, and then we like, the cookies spread so much and we don't know what happened and it cannot fit in the packaging, and we have to sort all the way around. We check the temperature of the oven, is that set on the right one. We check everything about like, is the dye to deposit the cookies right, is that problem anything in the ingredient temperature when they store it or like when they put it out there. And then we found out that, because that's like they're running another thing too, and they need hot water why the cookie need only cold water. And then we have to understand, we have to know where the screen of the water temperature to check. But then I'm the PD, how do I know? But I have to talk to the engineer to like, hey, have that. I need to check the problem of this, and I need to know where to check the temperature of that. Then we found that, oh, because summer, we take the temperature of the city, and whatever the temperature of the city is, we're gonna get that. So okay, so we need to have the water cooler in that, and make sure to have the churning properly for the mixer to know that when you mix it, you have to make sure that you have to turn off the heat and have to turn it to the cold water. You have to make sure that you have to note down on the paper when you have the water, okay, what the temperature at that time when you mix it, so we can continue check each batch, like what happened at that time when they mix it, when they do that. So that's why I say like, it's just like you have to find out the root cause. It's the funny part when you try to find that in the moment you found a solution. It's
Must
the
be
really
such
good.
a great
Yeah,
feeling.
it is. It is. So that's why I say sometimes it's just a tiny thing. It's still water, but it's hot water and cold water. It can change everything, and
Yeah.
and that and I think that is not only that because I'm and the research department, like, or I have the science background. It's basically from our like normal experience that when I'm cooking at home, when we do at home. That's why I feel like even I work in the food science, I still need to have the culinary background because it's so important that you can apply both and do that. Even my boss right now, she actually have no food science background. She just from culinary, she from job brow. But like we can talk a lot, and I think like even me, I study from that. I still have to learn a lot about food science. I still have a lot to learn about the functional ingredient is, and you cannot remember if you only read the book and you never apply it.
Yeah. Well, and that's where experience comes in too, I guess. You know, you're early in your career and learning a ton. But you know, you'll learn, you'll be able to take, oh, I remember when that we solved that problem, this was the issue, and you can apply it. And so Jordana and Dane, Jordana, what would you say are some of the biggest challenges that you face in your role?
Biggest challenges, I would say one of them is communication. I think communication in a lot of companies is a little bit challenging, or it's something that always needs to be improved. We are a global company, so we have cross-functional teams that all work with other chefs in different countries and different continents, and so we have to make sure that everything that we're communicating is really clear and concise, also matching people's timelines and I'd say that just making sure that you're communicating as clearly as possible, as accurately as possible, is kind of one of those big challenges. I think as anyone in the food manufacturing world would say, costs right now um, are so crazy, and our customers are coming back to us and asking for you know as much cost reduction as possible so that they don't have to pass on price increases to their customers. But we constantly are in that battle between cost reduction or controlling cost, but also putting out the best possible product and the best possible ingredients. Because I think that as a consumer, you're watching your wallet. Everyone is, and inflation is crazy, and you're always watching your grocery dollar. But you also want to feed your family or feed yourself the best possible products, the cleanest products, allergen free, made by reputable companies, and all of those things are really important, but all of those things cost money. So it's that finding that really good balance, and then being able to bring a creative flair to it. So being able to put your stamp on something that's just a little bit different.
I love that. Yeah.
And I think from my end, it's about you've got a lot of people within the organization and even our customers pulling in opposite directions. So you've got, if it was up to a lot of our operational folks, we would be making strawberry shortcake 12 hours a day, 6 days a week, and just run it forever. And then just from a ease of operation standpoint. And I think you've got our customers that are really driving innovation. They want creativity. They want new and unique flavors. And I think also part of it, I think, is managing customers' expectation, because I think that there are a lot of our customers at least have a lot of very creative minds there as well. So it's about trying to take their creative vision and breaking it down to the bare bones and figure out what we can execute. And then I think the other part is that, we're sort of stuck in the middle from an R&D perspective, because we're challenged to execute what our customers are looking for from a creative standpoint, but we're also charged to make things operationally efficient, cost effective from finance, sell really well from a marketing perspective, even though we're typically not the ones coming up with sort of the flavor direction that's coming from the customer. So I think it's a bit about being sort of caught in the middle and having to pull all these different levers all at the same time here as well. That can be sort of one of the bigger challenges. I think the other one is speed at which we do things. I think that our customers, when they're putting a request in, it's, I want samples tomorrow for something. But at the same time, like Chloe mentioned, if you go to the production floor and you get burned a few times on products, you really need to make sure that things are as buttoned down as possible before you even send a sample out, because the last thing I want to do is show something to a large customer and then not be able to execute it from a production standpoint. So you're trying to sort of balance working very quickly, getting creative, exciting products that also are operationally friendly and meet costs, and that we've tested or vetted enough and are comfortable enough sending out to them, all within a very timely manner.
I have so many questions that I want to ask, and I'm trying to think, like, we've got 10 minutes left and I'm trying to think which direction to go in. So I guess I'm just going to shoot questions out now, which feel free to whoever wants to answer. With regards to technology and innovation, everyone's mentioned that. What's been the biggest changes you've seen that that have really affected your job and the industry in general? Like, everyone wants to. Well, a lot of younger people that I speak to that are interested in the industry talk about robotics and automation and all these types of things, and yet a lot of the time they still think that the food industry is very old-fashioned. What would you say to someone that thinks it's old-fashioned? I guess that's a better question.
Yeah, I can go first because I'm off mute here. I think there's a broad scope. I mean, I think that there, out of our 8 manufacturing plants, we have some that are very highly automated. We do a lot of business for U.S. Food service customers that go through a large amount of volume of product. And so we've created interesting solutions that you go there and it looks like you might be in an automotive plant or something. Like there's robots all over the place doing things. But then you have everything from that to some of our facilities are still very manual. Like we have people that have been making sheet cakes or supersized cakes for the last 20 or 30 years on the line that can do it better than any chef that I know. And I think that, it really depends on the process, but I still think there's something to be said about having that level of expertise and having that sort of hands-on touch and people doing the products as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Jordana, did you want to add anything there?
Sure. I think one of the cool things about culinary and in the world of food manufacturing is obviously things have changed over the last 20 years that I've been doing this, 20 plus. But a lot of things are still very much the same. People love food. People communicate through food. People love to be creative and try things. And this job can be really fun. There's lots of stresses, like anything, like any job. There's lots of politics, especially if you're talking about larger companies. But at the end of the day, I think that food is passionate. We all got into this because we love food. We love to eat. We love to socialize. We love that element of the creativity. And so, I think that, yes, things have changed and there's lots more, like to your point, lots more automation within the manufacturing. But I think our roles are roles that just won't aren't going to, I mean, yes, they'll adapt, but I don't think they're really going to go anywhere, because I think people are always going to want new ideas. They're always going to want fresh ideas. They're always going to want something with a twist, something a little bit different. And I think that's where that's kind of our superpower, right? Is to be able to give innovative new ideas, think of something a little bit different. And I'm sure that the other chefs on this call can attest to the fact that, like, sometimes you're not even in the creative mode or in the creative, you're not being asked something creative, and all of a sudden you're like, oh my God, I never thought about, like, your brain goes somewhere and you're like 3 a.m. and you think, oh my God, this would be a really cool combination of flavors. And you hopefully take out your notebook and write it down. Otherwise you probably won't remember it in the morning, which happens to me often. But it's a cool, like, there's always something really cool about what we're doing and what we're working on. I remember when my kids were little, they'd be like, you play with food all day, and it's like, yeah, I kind of do. And it is really fun. And, any career, any job is what you can give to it and what you take from it. And I think that this job is a lot to be, there's a lot to be learned, but there's so much that you get from it as well.
It is fascinating. I mean, food is something we do at least 3 times a day or more. We eat. My kids are the same. They watch those videos nonstop, YouTube. It's all about food. But when I go out to the high schools and I say, who wants to work in the food industry, or what do you know about the food industry? It's scary how little information there is, and how little interest there is to work in the industry. So this is why these conversations are so inspiring, I think. We are closing in to the Chloe, go ahead. I see you coming for me.
Yeah, sorry, I just want to jump a little bit. I think the really good example for people can see is about, like, how the food industry is still growing up and even improvement a lot through the COVID. And when we see that our restaurant can close, and a lot of people, like, got laid off with the job, like even they doing in the IT, which everyone to jump into that. But the food industries improve a lot because, like, everyone still needs to eat. Everyone still wants food to, like, at least, like, when you sad, you eat. When you happy, you eat. Like, when you're really gonna enjoy with food. So, like, and I think, like, okay, AI or, like, whatever robots they may have to improve the industry, like even the other industries, not in only, like, food, but for the creative, it's just human, just people. We only can do that. And as Jordana and Dana say that we always, like, they want the fresh idea. We want the fresh idea all the time. And, like, I'm like, the AI, they cannot communicate with the other departments. You cannot, like, talk to the engineer. You not can talk with the marketing. Do not understand the people emotion, people behaviors. To know, like, okay, which food you want to give them, what they're gonna like. So I think it's really a huge opportunity for people if they have the passion with food and they don't want to spend, like, time to, like, work in the kitchens. Don't get me wrong, if someone loves being a chef, I'm so respect them. But, like, for me, it's like, I'm international student. I'm small. I'm like working in the kitchens maybe tough for my health. So I'm like, okay, I still do something with food. I'm gonna enjoy that. I still feel like food. When I make the food and I see people enjoy it and they be happy with that, I'm happy. I feel like you can share this. It's a lot of in there. It's not like eating to get food. It's like emotion in there. So I think the robotic or the AI, they cannot do that.
It's true. Like I always say when I am visiting these schools, if you work in the restaurant, you're feeding a room, and that's great. Don't get me wrong, but you go into food processing or beverage processing, you're feeding the masses. You're seeing your product on the shelf.
You share more love to people by the other way.
Yeah, exactly. So if you wouldn't mind, best piece of advice that you would offer somebody that has an interest in food, loves cooking, but has already decided the restaurant world is not for them because of the hours and pay, if that's entered their minds. What would the best piece of advice be that you could impart based on your own experience? Dane, you want to go first?
Sure, yeah. I would say two parts. I'd say the first one is network, is just start talking to people, start seeing what roles are out there. I've throughout my career, I've sent dozens of, LinkedIn messages, emails, things like that to people, just asking them about their job. People are more than willing to spend time sitting down and talking with you, and really helping you talk through their journey or what options are available. And I think the other is to slow down. I think there's always a big hurry to sort of jump in or find what you need to do. I think I think that everyone needs to just sort of take a step back, just worry about sort of right now. There's always opportunities to grow and move on and find new sort of paths and adventures. So just sort of take it one day at a time.
I love that. It's true. I think that's what causes the stress and the mental health issues, is when you're worried about 10 years and, what am I doing today that's going to affect later on? Yeah. Worry about today.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. Be in the moment and be a forever learner, right? Be a forever student. So if you're interested in something and then ask questions or take a course and learn whatever you can learn, because there's no such thing as bad education. There's no such thing as a waste of time when it comes to expanding your knowledge base. And even if it's something that you don't use in your day-to-day career, it's building up those building blocks and just keep your brain open to learning as much as you possibly can. And I would echo the networking thing. Don't be, like I said, introverted, but sometimes you just want to send that message and say, hey, saw you on LinkedIn, could I have 10 minutes of your time? And like Dane said, most people are really open to sharing doing these kind of things and imparting their knowledge, because we are kind of a small community in the food manufacturing world, and we know, a lot of us know each other, and there's so much to be learned from each other's experiences.
Chloe, anything to add?
I think I agree with whatever people say. And then one thing I want to add on, like, you need to find the right source to read, or like the right people to ask. Because as you say that you went to the school and you say that all the students, they have barely information about that, about the food industry. They can spend time to read like about the food grad. They can spend time to read about food and talk to right people who's in the industry already. You can tell them what exactly is. I know parents, they know, but if they're not in the industry, they can't tell you like what exactly it is. You need to find the right source, right people to ask if you're really interested about it.
Yeah, I would agree. Thank you so much, everyone, for your time. Jordana, Dane, Chloe, again, I know I've said this, we couldn't inspire people unless you take the time out of your, I know, hugely busy days to come onto sessions like this. So we really appreciate it. Can't thank you enough. If you are viewing this, please visit CareersNOW.ca for lots of information with regards to finding your next opportunity. Go and see food grads. We have a podcast as well. Lots of different conversations to really celebrate the people and professions in the industry. There are 14 courses you can take for free that can help you get your start into the food industry. So we're really excited to support you. And thank you again. Have a great rest of the day. Thank you enough. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.